Right. Problem 5-12, no prisoners. I think it's already been done, but I'm going to go ahead and think now more or less correctly. Trying to be cognizant of going to right away making a view, making a rectangle. I don't know the feedbacks, but by now many of you might know that 0, commas, got to turn on my keyboard, it would appear. Many of you may know that phi is 1.62, which is the same as conversions from kilometers to miles. Just thought of that right now. It's not exactly 1.62, but I'm going to grab my first point at 0, 0, and then at 1.62, 1. Now I know I want that to be 6 times bigger. If you want to just fit it right into the paper, spacebar, 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 scale 6. Draft strong base lines, strong base circles. I see a circle with a diameter of 0.75 and another one with a radius of 1.31. I'd go ahead and draft that then on my object layer, which is not turned on. Always remember everything on, everything thawed. At home I didn't have that on. There's that box that I had laid on before. Don't want that box. This box here, I'm going to draft a circle here. I'll go ahead and start with the radius one of 1.31. This is problem 5-12. And then we're going to go ahead and draft another circle diameter from the shift right click from the center of that. And some of you can realize at point right now you can just type in CEN if you're really good about it. Now, strong base lines, strong base circles. I had a good strong base line. I'm going to good strong base circle. I mean a good strong base line. I'm going to go from the center of here. I've got my ortho on. I've got a good base point there. Now at this point you realize that there seems to be something going on right there, so I'm going to break. Snaps are off, extend, screw that. In other words, I'm just spacing barring through when it asks me from what my trim edges are. And now I'm going to turn 15 degrees by left click, spacebar, spacebar, C for copy. Take out my right hand and tell it it's going 15 degrees. This thing here, you might realize it's very nice to have that line broken up to the center. I'm going to spacebar, left click, spacebar, 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 C 180. Now I got 2 lines, which is sometimes good because now I want to turn that 30 degrees. Left click, spacebar, spacebar, C for this. This times it's minus 30. Alright, so I've got right now, I've got some strong base lines, some strong base circles. I got my 30 degrees there. I have another circle described here, which is described on the center line is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and draw, it could do an arc, but I'm going to draw, a circle, center radius from the shift right click from the center of that, and the radius was 2. Now when I look at this, once again, something is off. So I'm going to list or dimension. So that one has a radius of 1.31. This one has a radius of 2. But the radius of 2 was from here. So now I'm going to go ahead and you're using a visual clue. Center radius from the intersection right here with a radius of 2. Now that seems to make more sense, doesn't it? Now what you have is some intersection points. You have a circle right up here that has a radius of 0.25. So circle, shift right click from the intersection of that 0.25. That same thing is down at the bottom here. Left click, spacebar, C for copy, to the shift right click, the intersection. And you realize very often that ortho gets clicked on for some reason. Don't know why. You kind of now have this kind of going all the way through. It still doesn't necessarily look right to me because, in effect, once again, I screwed up my turn. So I'm going to take this one. That other one is a radius. It's 0.3, not from the center point there, but it is it's 30 degrees from that point there. So I'm going to go a left click, left click, left click, C for rotate, minus 30, extend, screw that, extend, screw that. And now I've got something that visually makes a little bit more sense. I've drafted this before and I'm still making mistakes. So using your visual clues is a big deal. Hence the tirade, C for copy, once again, about 3 Mile Island. Spacebar, C for copy. Just shift right click the intersection. Will I get it done? Hard to say. We have a couple intersection points here. I can always say offset T for through. Take that, shift right click, offset through the intersection there. It's probably not supposed to be on the center line layer. Good idea right then to change that to the object layer. Great idea then to trim it out. Trim it. Now you're going to actually select things you're going to trim to. And now we can offset T for through the intersection. We have that slot done. We can trim, screw that, and now we can change these two to object. We've got the outside done. Now we have a little bit more going on. We actually have an outside radius of 2.62, so we can do a circle, shift, intersection here, radius of 2.62. Once again, that should be on the object layer so your eye starts to appreciate what's going on. As it comes around here, you have a circle with a radius of 0.62, but realistically a better way to draft that would probably a circle, shift right click the intersection of there to the intersection. These are cotangent circles. This is really a lot about tangent, tangent, radius. Once again, we can now offset T for through, offset T for through, probably this through the intersection there. Then we'll see whether that works out correctly. We have now something we can trim that big long outside, which is tangent to this one, tangent to that one, comes all the way through. We can trim, screw that, trim this back. This would be a better case that we would have done this. All right, we've gone all the way through there. This is radius of 1.38. You might want to check that. What is that circle? It's 1.38. However, this comes around and then it turns out there is a fillet of 0.63. So you're going to break in a positive direction. You're going to break this in a positive direction. Fillet radius 0.63. Minute and a half left. You're pretty much done. Trim that off. Trim this off. And for all intents and purposes, that is done. Now it comes to the important part of layering, and I'm just going to take this little bit of time now here to realize we got a center line there. You can start to do some breaks on your circle so you don't carry too much around. Right, so you kind of got that going on. You can realize that there's something called LT scale. I taught you file dia the other day. LT scale is something that's going to make a big difference in your line types. You get rid of your little pieces around here, you do your P edits, and now finally you can go to your dimension layer. Think about the 1, 2, 3 at the YMCA. Not have to change the fit probably, but if I go ahead and now grab a radius, you start to realize how the dimensioning may or may not look the way it wants. We're going to look a little bit about how the center dimensioning works and the like. That one there, that one there. Is it going back to the center here? And we can eventually grab some things and pull them apart. Start playing around then with dimensioning. The angular ones. Grab from one to the other, 15 degrees. Angular ones. Grab from one to the other, 30 degrees. That is that drawing. Remember, mine is V for view, W for window, plot, view, first window, shift right click the endpoint there. One thing I probably would have done before I did any of this is move this to the logical 0, 0 point. Thanks for listening.